Hello again, and welcome back to Acorn Knits. My name's Natalia, and this is a knitting podcast. So this week is a little bit of a mixed bag. I've got a bit more works in progress, I've got some stashed acquisition, and I thought I'd also do one of those, see how much I could knit in an hour. I think it's just interesting to see. I'm doing it on the sleeve that I'm making for the Setesdal sweater, so it's plain stockinette. There's a bit of colour work, but I think it will give kind of a good idea. We'll see. First, I'll start on works in progress because I think that's the most interesting thing, perhaps? I don't know. Judge for yourself. So I've made a bit more progress on the Moody Fairy Shawl. I have now officially finished. What was I saying? Anyway, I've officially finished section 4, which was the 2-colour brioche. So I've chosen the light blue as the contrast colour and then the dark blue as the secondary colour. And obviously when it's reversed, you've got the dark blue and then the light blue. And compared to the cables, this flew by. I probably finished that in a couple of days, something like that. And now I'm on to section 5, which I believe is just a repeat of this slip stitch pattern here. But instead of using the white and the blue, the navy will be the contrast, the main color, and then this beige will be the little background color. So another very quick stitch pattern to do. So once that's finished, I'm onto the final section, which is the cables. So that's going to be the part that really slows me up. But hopefully with what I learned with what went wrong here, I can hopefully correct it and actually have properly functioning cables, properly positioned cables. So that's what that's at with the Moody Fairy Shawl. But it's coming along really well. I think I'm up to maybe around 450 stitches, something like that. And I believe I end on perhaps around 600, something like that. So it's going to be pretty big when it's finished, because even now, I mean, it's all scrunched up along here, as you can see, but it's going to be pretty big. I don't think I'll be able to hold my entire arms out to hold it fully stretched out. So official schlanket, I think, once it's completed. But yeah, that's really the main thing I've been working on this week, because I've got the sleeve for my father's Setesdal sweater. So I've made a bit more progress, as you shall see. So that's the length that we're looking at now. So it's quite a bit longer on my arm. I think for him, this would probably only just come up to his elbow, whereas mine's almost halfway up the arm. But I lost a bit of steam on it because I realized I wasn't going to finish in time for his birthday. So I kind of thought, well, why spend all my time doing just this one project if it's not going to be finished in time? Because for this, I probably have, by the time this video is up, a couple of days before it's his birthday. So I wasn't going to finish both sleeves, have it steeked and all that business in time. So I think on his birthday, I'll just let him know what I've been making, so he at least doesn't think I've forgotten about getting him a present or anything, or forgotten about his birthday. So yeah, I can also gauge his reaction from how it looks, because at least the body's done, so I'll see what he thinks about it. I am a little worried he might think this is a bit effeminate, because they kind of look like tiny love hearts. I don't know. Maybe he'll just think it's a bit fancy. I think he'll think that, but hopefully he'll love it regardless. I'm sure he'll love it regardless. It's whether he'll wear it is really the true question we want to ask ourselves. That's where I'm at with the sleeve. Nothing super exciting. For anyone who wants to see floats, I'm here for you. I got them. Where are we? There we are. So satisfying. They're not even fantastic floats. They're just something about this. I really love it. It's so cool. So anyway, at the end of the video, I will time myself doing an hour's worth of knitting and see how far I can get. At the moment, there's about there's about 100 stitches on here. I am increasing every few rows, so that number is going to go up slightly. So I think that's a pretty easy number to gauge. You know, if I get 10 rows done in an hour, that's 1,000 stitches or so in an hour, but it'll be interesting to see and do a little bit of like basic maths to work out how many stitches I'm able to knit in that time. Then, some of the most exciting parts of the video is stash acquisition. So I placed an order with, I think it's pronounced Tititi. I don't know, does anyone in Finland know how to pronounce this? I think it's Tititi. Anyway, they're a yarn store in Finland, and I first purchased from them the Tukuwool that I made for my Belmont cardigan, and I love that yarn, and just their customer service was fantastic. I remember it coming really, really quickly, and just everything about it, the way it was packaged, I loved. And so, well, okay, let me pause there and get something. Okay, I return. So originally the yarn I purchased from them was this Tukuwool in the fingering weight, and it's 100% finished lamb's wool, and this is the Mantu colorway. So it's sort of like a mild brownish sort of color. So then, because I had such a good experience the first time, when it came to ordering some more yarn, because I really want to make something for myself. I know I'm making the Moody fairy shawl for myself, but I want a garment I can wear. And I've mentioned a few times about the Stonecrop by Andrea Mary. So I wanted something that was going to go with my spin cycle yarn. And this colorway is Mississippi Masala. So I wanted something quite plain, like I didn't want a pure white yarn to go with it as the main color and having this as the contrast, because I just thought it would be a bit too bright. This is quite muted colors, and I thought the white would be too stark a contrast. But then at the same time, I didn't want a lot of natural wools that haven't been dyed and they're sort of in their original color. When they're a sort of whitish color, they tend to have very cream undertones to a lot of yellow, and I didn't want that either. So I was very picky, and I looked for ages to find something that I wanted, and I couldn't really settle on anything. And then I decided to have a look at Tititi. I went on their website and I browsed around, and I found this one by Lana Gatto. It's their VIP fingering weight, and it's a blend of wool and cashmere. I don't think there's anything else in it from memory. Let me just check. Yes, 80% extra fine merino and 80% superfine merino and 20% cashmere. But it's sort of it's not a cream. I mean, it is a cream, but it has almost like pinky undertones to it rather than yellow. And I love that. And obviously because of the cashmere and the superfine merino, it is so soft, unbelievably soft, like marshmallow soft, which I think is going to be beautiful next to skin, because I do want to do the Stonecrop cardigan. But I think those two, I think they play really well together. I think it will be a nice color complement. So I bought 5 of these because I'll be making the smaller size in the Stonecrop. I'm tossing up whether I swatch for it or if I just get started. I know I should swatch, but I really hate swatching. So I'll swatch. I guess I'll swatch. Yeah, I will. I don't know what I'm debating about. But aside from getting enough of these to make the Stonecrop, I also grabbed some shade cards, because I've been really interested in making something with Icelandic Lettlopi, but I wasn't sure about, I mean, like anything online, you can't really tell what the colors are going to be like until you see it in person. And sometimes it can be really minor differences, and it's sort of like, well, how does that look in real life? Like online, I can sort of see a bit of a difference, but it's not really clear. So I thought if I got shade cards, it would be good for when I want to buy something in the future. And there were only a few euros, so I thought it was worthwhile. So I got 2. I got one for the Lettlopi and one for the Lettlopi. And so, see here, got the shade cards there that have all the different numbers on them. I saw, I think her name was Helen Magnuson, something like that, but I'll post it down below. She did a colorwork jumper using Lettlopi, and I really want to pick some colors from here to go with it. And I think now that I've got them in front of me, it's going to be a lot easier to make that decision. So that's the one for Lettlopi, and then this is the one for Lettlopi. It's got a few less in it. Oops, that's upside down. Do it the right way. And then all the sort of more neutral shades on the back. Even just from feeling it, it's a much softer yarn, the Lettlopi, compared to the Lettlopi. Lettlopi feels a lot more toothy and it's got more spin to it. The Lettlopi, I believe, is completely unspun. It's the one that comes in those beautiful round discs. They call it discs, something like that. But it's so beautiful. I mean, it's still scratchy when you touch it, but it's just so, so soft. So if you see closer up, maybe if I go to this one, you can see it's just fuzzy. There's no spin to it whatsoever. Whereas if I look at the Lettlopi, you can see that's been spun. So anyway, now I have these, I can pick some colors and go from there. All those things are pretty much everything I have to catch you up on this week. So I think let's do some timing. Okay, so I've got my stopwatch and I will get that started. All right, so we're off and running. Let's see. I don't even know if you can even see what I'm doing. I have to hold it up quite high. This is a slightly awkward way of knitting. Does anyone, I don't know, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, I wonder if anybody experiences any neck pain from knitting or anything like that. Luckily, I feel like I've escaped it pretty well. I don't feel like I suffer from any really bad neck pain or anything like that from, you know, always being hunched over. However, I feel like correct posture would be something like this, and I don't know who would knit like this. An ex-ballerina perhaps. But yeah, I wonder if, because I've heard knitters talk a lot about wrist pain and things like that. Once again, something else that I've quite luckily escaped. I have never had any issues with it. And I've also escaped neck pain pretty well, although touch wood, I feel like it's now something I say and I'll probably have an issue with it. But yeah, I sometimes am conscious how much I am bending over my projects, and that I really, you know, my shoulders are pulled forward and it's not the best posture. I just realized I didn't even place a progress creeper into my knitting. So I've got these adorable stitch markers that I'm going to use as a progress marker. There we go. So I've got this adorable little ragdoll stitch marker. So I'm going to place him in my work here. There we go. Popped him in there. So I guess I've never really done a knit and chat. I suppose because it doesn't feel like something a small channel like this would do. But here we are, I'm doing it. If you like it, let me know. Yeah, but anyway, so seeing as I'm sitting here knitting for an hour, I'm going to chat a little bit about things that aren't just knitting. So it just reminded me, because I obviously have the ragdoll stitch marker, I have two ragdolls, and I showed them before in the videos. They're a brother and sister. Kiki is the girl and Up is the boy. And we recently had to take them to the vet for their annual vaccination. And before we went, we know that the vet weighs them every time we go there, and we were trying to take bets on how much we thought each of them weighed. Anyway, we took them in. They got the vaccinations, they took it like a champ, you know, no crying, no carrying on, they were very good. And then they got weighed, and they each weigh 6 kilos, which I couldn't believe. I mean, Upper, I could, because he's a pretty big cat, even though he's quite slim. And Kiki is smaller than him, but she's very round. So I think sometimes she has the appearance of being fat, but she actually isn't. However, the vet told us that 6 kilos is too much, and that they really should be at 5 kilos. I really disagree, but I'm not a veterinarian, so who am I to say what a healthy cat weight should be? But it's just, you know, the Slavic need to fatten up everything around you. It's hard to get away from that. I feel like we're just pushing all these beauty standards onto our pets, and it's just not fair, you know? I don't know how much of this I'm going to include of me just talking about my cat's diet. But speaking of cats, which this is knitting related, I left this project out a few weeks ago, and one of my cats, Kiki actually, she's the one who's obsessed with yarn. You can see there she chewed on the end of this needle. So they're the occupational hazards that come with using wooden needles. Your cats can eat them. So it was pretty bad, because when I was knitting, all the yarn was catching on it because it was obviously really rough and she'd bitten it. Luckily she hadn't completely destroyed the needle, but let's see if you can see me knitting. But yeah, she'd obviously roughened the surface up so that the yarn kept catching as I was slipping stitches over. And I didn't really know what to do, so I just got out a emery board and filed it and just filed it gently kind of in the direction of the wood grain so I wasn't pulling any more back. And that's pretty much solved it. I mean, you could obviously still see the bite marks in the needles, but it smoothed it down really, really well. I was surprised how well it worked. So, handy tip, if your pets or children or angry spouse chews on your wooden knitting needles, then you can file them. If they're in a certain stage, I imagine if they've taken the top off, then you may need to just start from scratch. But I do generally prefer to use metal needles, not for that reason. I just find them easier to knit with. But now I think I've got a better reason to stick with the metal ones because Kiki is a terror and will get into absolutely anything. And case in point, so back to it. I am terrible at knitting and talking. I wonder how it was for people when they were in like knitting groups before obviously all the pandemic stuff. You know, because I know that there's like quite a bit of chatting that goes on. I wonder how people, their experiences with that, if anyone did have one. I mean, did you find that it was distracting from what you're doing or helpful? Or I guess maybe because you're in a group of knitters, people understand that, you know, if you want to be quiet and not speak, they kind of know why. Whereas I think with non-knitters, you know, like if you're in the middle of counting stitches and someone asks you a question, it's like, God, not now. I've lost track. What was I at? Was that 141 or 132? And it's like, oh, nah, just leave me. Let me start again, go away. Sorry, I feel like for knits and chats you want to see what I'm knitting. So I'll try and make an effort to keep it up. That's what he said. Yes, I'm not very good at knitting without looking at my work. That is something I would like to work on a little bit more because I do like to watch things with subtitles. Not just in other languages, but in English as well. My boyfriend watches everything with subtitles and it has changed my life because I watched a lot of The Sopranos, which I love. I can't believe it took me so long to discover that TV series. Holy moly, it is amazing. James Gandolfini and just the entire cast, everyone's incredible. So if you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. And for those who have, I would love to know who your favorite character is. I think Adriana by far is my favorite character. Aside from Adriana, because how could you not love her? She's the sweetest thing ever. I love Syl. I think Syl is the best, such a legend, and so loyal, sometimes too much so. But yes, I love Syl. Syl and Adriana are definitely my favorites. So any Sopranos fans, let me know who your favorites are. And oh yes, I should have made an increase quite a while ago. Whoopsie! Okay, so the experiment is being cut short prematurely because I have run out of yarn. So I could join a new ball, but I feel like then do I pause the timer? And I don't know, I'm not gonna mess with that. So the time currently is about 43 minutes. And let's see how many rows I've done. 12 rows of a bit over 100 stitches. I'll do the maths in here. So yes, that's kind of what I knit. Isn't it ugly? Where I have to do the increases. That'll be underneath the arm, so you don't have to see that because it's a bit of a mess. But look, you wouldn't even know. It's so pretty and neat. Just gonna keep chipping away. And it'll actually be good to give it to him before his birthday, or rather to test it on him, because my father he's like quite tall and very slim, sort of built like a greyhound. So I don't know how long this will be on his arm, and it would be good to check in advance, especially with knowing where to place the colorwork motif around the top of the shoulders. So actually maybe it's a blessing in disguise that I haven't finished this in time for his birthday. I'll just go with that. But that's it. That's everything for this week. And hopefully when we catch up next time, I will have started my swatch for the Stonecrop Cardigan. I'll see you then. Bye.